Game loaded.
Hi, and welcome to the edition of Lessons Learned with your host, Rafael Pinheiro. There's a lot of information floating out there about sales, units shipped, units sold, gross profits, net profits, etc., etc. One example, of course, is an article from Eurogamer, and the article talked about how Bethesda announced triumphantly they shipped over 12 million copies of Fallout 4. Hooray for Fallout 4? Well, not quite, because as the article points out, again, shipped is not the same thing as sold. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, ladies and gentlemen. You see, the problem with the whole thing is that we get a lot of numbers, we get a lot of reports about successful games, but when you read between the lines, there's nothing between the lines. For example, let's say that a game grossed over $300 million. That's gross profit. Doesn't tell me anything. What I need is the net profit. That is, what the game grossed minus the cost of making the game and putting it out there. I need to see the profit margins, which tells me how healthy that particular IP is. And if I have more information on profit margins over, say, a couple of fiscal quarters or even a fiscal year or more, I can tell how healthy the parent company may be. That information is also important because that's the kind of money the company has to play with, not only to make more games, because making games takes a long time and you don't make any profit until you make and put the new game out there, to be sold, and then 3 years later you have to do it all over again. Well, you're constantly doing it, but in the meantime, you have to pay for everything. You have to pay to keep the lights on. You have to keep the servers on, etc., etc. Again, we don't have that kind of information. Even we get pieces of information like, say, Tomb Raider, the reboot in 2013, sold over 8.5 million copies. When you dig a little deeper, you realize that those were not the sales in the first day, week, or even month of the title. Which means if anybody has gone to a brick and mortar store and looked at older games, ones that are months, a year or more old, that the prices are far lower than the original retail price of around $60. In the first 3 months, they might shed about $10 to $15. In the first 6 months, about half their price. And by the end of the year, they're in the bargain bin, if they're lucky. Or if they get rebundled in a Game of the Year edition, they're back at $60, but because DLC prices really don't change on account that they need the core product in order to work, so that means that you subtract the actual cost of the DLC, again, the core product is probably worth about half or less of the original retail price. So even when you get numbers, of games sold, even when you get numbers about how much a company made, it's still very nebulous. A lot of things are missing. Also, we don't know how deep the pockets of an individual company are. Some companies like Nintendo, Sony, and EA, Electronic Arts, have survived for years just on their reserves and the rather slim pickings of some of their products. They make a profit, but also they took heavy losses from the Great Recession, and so, they had to compensate. And then we have this example of THQ, which one moment was shouting to the high heavens that it was predicted a multi-billion-dollar profit, and this happened. I'm sure that he got tired of carrying that dildo bat around and either threw it in the garbage or shoved it up his... Yeah, I know, but still. Which paints a picture of a very nervous, very overly excited, very tumultuous AAA industry. One that seems to be, caught in its own bubble. A one moment posting tremendous successes, but when you dig deeper, there's not much there to begin with. Couple that with, again, very questionable business practices, and the cynic in me foresees not a bright future for the AAA industry where profits soar ever higher, but instead a return to this. Doom and gloom? Maybe, but we've been there before, and there's no reason to think we may not be there again. As always, if you like this or any video on my channel, please comment and subscribe, and I'll see you when I see you. Good night.
Now use your jump kits to get up there and acquire that holocron, and bring it back to Checkpoint Alpha. Who knows what secrets it might hold.